What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. It is a very exciting first episode as I got my boy Justin Eaton in the house for the first ever interview on the Frankie D'Astoli Show. And Justin Eaton not only is a really good friend of mine, but he's also a serial entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur since 2012 when he graduated college. Him and his college roommate started selling t-shirts, and after that, failed. And I'm sure there was a lot of lessons involved with that. He started selling protein shakers with motivational quotes on them, which was awesome. But then in 2014, he wandered into real estate investing and he has never looked back again. Justin is continuing to evolve in his real estate career. He has a very variety and diverse portfolio between single family houses, multifamily houses, some mixed use stuff. And he's recently ventured into laundromats, which has been his new niche and has been absolutely fantastic for him. He's got two that he's fully renovated, that he's generating a ton of cash flow off of. He's got a third one in the hopper. And he doesn't do it alone. He does it with his fiance, Ashley, and his son, Hawkins, which I believe is 4 years old now, 5 years old, something along those lines. And he is getting ready to inherit the empire that Justin and his fiance are building, which is really, really awesome. One last thing I will say about Justin: although he's got a great real estate portfolio that he's building, he also started a really important group, South Jersey Real Estate Investment Group, which has been a group that has changed my life. And it's awesome to have him on the show. I'm very excited to have him here. Justin, welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate you having me on. And I know you're new to this podcasting game, but I've been listening to a lot of your episodes and you are freaking natural at this. I'm very excited to see like your future episodes, see where this podcasting thing takes you because I think you're really good at it. And secondly, listening to some of your episodes, I know you sprinkle in some religious stuff, and I'm not like a religious guy, but it does inspire me to think about becoming religious or like dive into it a little bit, just the way you kind of incorporate these religious things into your stories and how you tell stories from real estate and kind of combine the two. It's very I would say eye-opening, some of these things, and it's very cool, man. I appreciate you having me on, and it's really cool to see what you're doing, and I think this will be a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate you, heavy dude. Thank you very much for that. I've always had a little bit of a gift of gab, is what they would say. I guess is what they call it. But I'm new to the podcasting game. It's been a blast. I'm enjoying it. And I think the most important thing there, though, is the religious aspect. And I think very, very shortly, you will end up on the Pray the Rosary Buy Real Estate train that we are forming here. And I appreciate that, man. It really does mean a lot. And we could definitely talk more about that, too. And that's always cool because, I don't know if everybody likes to hear it, but I feel like it's my job to, promote that stuff and talk about it, as it's been such a big role for me. So I appreciate you mentioning that. But we got a ton to cover. We got a lot to go through. I want to start with South Jersey Real Estate Investment Group, though, because like I said, that's a group that really changed my life. I walked into that meetup at Flying Fish Brewery in Jersey, and it was April 15th, 2021. And I walked in there, and at that time I was in medical device sales. I came in with a button down and a blazer on. I was like all prepped up for this brewery meetup and with my notebook in place. And I learned a ton. And the reality of the situation is I'm not the only one. So you being the person that started that, I'm sure you've changed so many people's lives through that group. What made you start South Jersey Real Estate Investment Group, and what's kind of your vision for it? I know you and I'm on the planning committee now, so I have a little bit of insider information, but everybody wants to know, what's your vision for it? What do you think is the true value in that group?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started it in 2018, this was right, when I was listening to Bigger Pockets a lot. Bigger Pockets podcast was like super popular at that time. I don't listen to it as much now, but I think in like 2017, 2018, it was like a heavy real estate train podcast. And
Yeah.
so Brandon Turner kept saying, you should go to your local meetups. If there's not any local meetups, you should start one. So I was like, yeah, what do I got to lose? At that time, we used the Bigger Pockets event page. So I would just, the first one, I went on there and created like a local event. We had like 16 people come to the first meetup, and the vibes were high. Like everyone who comes to these real estate meetups, even throughout the 5 years it's been going on, like everybody's there to like help other people. It's like, it's just a good vibe all around. And like so many, like you said, so many deals have been done in these groups, business partnerships have been
Yeah.
formed, friendships have been formed, relationships, maybe, I don't know. But my vision, I think, when it first started, the first like couple of meetups were super casual. And then I wanted it to be like informative for people. So I would host these meetups at like title companies or like mortgage companies.
Yes.
And I would have whoever, works for these companies do like a 20 or 30-minute presentation and provide like refreshments. And then it would just be like, they would learn from these people. They would get to ask questions. And then you would just do open networking before and after. And then over the years, it's kind of morphed into like, more fun stuff. Like we do like Top Golf we did. That was the
Yep.
first one I remember meeting you at, actually, was the one at Top Golf. We
Yeah.
did Top Golf, we did go-karts. We might have done an axe throwing one. I didn't go to it. If we did, stuff like that. But now I think this year and moving forward, it's going to kind of be a hybrid. Like, I would like to keep it fun like that,
Yep.
but also have it be very, for people to learn and be very informative and impactful for people, not just from a networking, but information perspective. So I think I'm excited to see where it goes. We have some cool events planned for this year, and the group has been growing year over year, so it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are looking to come out to that group, go to SJREIG on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's just that, right,
Yep,
Justin? It's
that's
just that
correct.
we're posting all the meetups that are coming through there, and then you'll sign up through the Eventbrites. I know we got a couple good ones already planned for this year, which is awesome. And just to on that note, I mean, like when I wandered in there on April 15th, like I met a couple, Kyle and Lauren, who are relatively like famous. I would call them, kind of like the famous were like it's not like they're walking down the street and everybody knows who they are, but like if they go into a room, you'll probably have a couple people that at least know who they are, like that type of famous. And their Instagram's Rentals to Wealth. And I met them at that first meetup and they were like, you should house hack. And I was like, that's the last thing I'm doing. Like, I don't want to house hack. Like, I want to be the savvy investor that's driving the fresh car and got the rental portfolio. And then after talking with guys like you, talking with guys like Kevin, Marcus, like these guys in the group, it led me to becoming a house hacker. And that ultimately leveraged, I leveraged the HELOC out of that house hack. And now I have the portfolio that I have. So really that literally that day on April 15th, 2021, completely changed my perspective on a lot of things, which is really, really awesome. And exactly what you said, like if you're an aspiring real estate investor, or if you're a real estate investor as a whole, Justin, we talk about this all the time. It should basically be called relationship estate, right? Because it's all about the relationships that you're cultivating. And if you are not going out to these meetups and you're not meeting with people, if you're an investor, you're not meeting with lenders, you're not meeting with agents, you're not meeting with attorneys, you're not meeting with these people, you need to get out there and start building your network because it's very cliche, but it'll increase your net worth. And that's some of that. I'm sure anybody that's been to this group, that's the reason why everybody keeps coming back. They keep coming back because they know the value that's in there and what's being brought from it. So appreciate you starting that. And again, if you're listening and you're not in there, like I have, some of my listeners, which I'm very appreciative of, you guys are in like South Africa, Sweden, Italy. Start your own group if you don't have one out there, right? Do exactly what Justin did, and the relationships that he built by doing that and the lives that he's changed is instrumental, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. Like, one thing I always tell people that I'm networking with, you never know who you're going to meet, when, and where it's going to lead to what. And like just chance meetups, and the more you put yourself in position to meet people, like you never know who you're going to meet. There's people there looking for lenders. There's people there looking for wholesalers. There's people there looking for property managers, or like there might be somebody looking to sell a duplex. The other
Yep.
day, somebody went to a real estate meetup this weekend, and they were talking to somebody, and the guy was looking to sell a laundromat, and like then he called me and was like, hey, like this guy's looking to sell a laundromat. And just like, you just got to talk to people and put yourself in position. And it's really like, it seems simple, but it's like it's so instrumental.
Yeah. Yeah, it's top tier. All right. So I know we're going to get into kind of like the whole nuts and bolts of all this. I want to talk about your real estate journey, right? So you started investing in 2014. What was the first deal that you bought and which strategy was it? What did you learn from it? Like, just give me the rundown.
So my first deal actually was before I knew anything about real estate. I just had graduated college. I was looking to move out of my parents' home, and so I was working for this guy doing home inspections, and he had a couple rental properties, and he knew I was looking to like move out of my house, and so he's like, I have this rental property, this deal. He basically gave me the deal. It was a single family, 2-bedroom house, complete like fixer upper, and so it
Yeah.
was like it was a live in flip, but I didn't know that at the time. It was also a house hack because I had a roommate move in. So I didn't know at the time, but I was doing a live and flip house hack, hybrid.
Yes.
That was my very first deal. I bought that in 2014. And then probably a year or two later, I started really figuring out what real estate investing was. And I started reading books, got into the Bigger Pockets podcast. And then I learned about what like house hacking was. So then I actually ended up buying a duplex right on the corner from that first property that I bought off market. I did a direct mail letter to the owner. So basically, I would walk my
Love it.
dog back around this corner property, or back to this neighborhood, and I saw this duplex. I had a 3-car detached garage. I was like, wow, look at this thing. Like, maybe just send the letter to the owner. He called me. We put a deal together. I sold the single family, and then I moved into the duplex.
Nice.
And those are my first 2 properties.
When you sold the single family, I'm assuming obviously, so you did a live and flip, so you obviously made a profit on it. Did you 1031 that money into the duplex, or was it just like pocketed it, put it down payment?
So while I was living in that single family house, once I started doing real estate, I actually partnered with somebody and we did a handful of flips.
Okay.
Probably should have mentioned that. So that happened in between that time between you like moved into the single family and bought the duplex. So in between that time, I did a handful of flips, and so I had some capital to the side. So I was actually able to buy that duplex before I sold the single family. So I didn't do a 1031. And
Yes.
also, since I was living there for as my primary residence, it was tax free anyway on the sale.
Nice.
So
Yep.
it wasn't like a home run by any means. Like it was I did end up converting it from a 2 bedroom to a 3 bedroom right before I sold it, which helped the value a little bit. And I sold it in 2018,
Okay.
and so the market has been went bonkers since then. The house is probably worth double what I sold it for, but it's fine. Can't control the timing, right? So
100%. So you sell, all right. So you sell that. Now you're working in a flip. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. You partnered with somebody that you're doing these flips with. Were they more like already involved in real estate, or were you guys both kind of learning as it went? Where did you kind of bring the value in the partnership, and where did he bring the value?
yeah, so it was the same person. It was the guy I was working for. He had a handful of
Hmm.
rentals. He was the same guy that brought me the first property because he knew I was looking for somewhere to live. So he basically handed that deal off to me to buy as my primary residence. He was the one I partnered with. He was the owner of the company I was working for at the time. He had
Yep.
capital. He didn't have the time. I had some time and no capital. So I basically proposed to him like, hey, like, let's try this flip, or try doing a couple flips. Like I'll GC these jobs. And he was kind of the financial side of it. So like he's the capital, I was the boots on the ground, and it worked out pretty well. We did 4 or 5 flips over like a 2 year period. In the very beginning, it was so stressful for me. I had no clue what I was doing. I was trying to do a lot of the work myself, and like literally a project that could have took 2 or 3 months took a year because I was trying to like work all
Yeah.
day, then go work at this house for 2 or 3 hours, and like it was just it did everything wrong. Like how the story goes. Like you do everything wrong in your first couple deals, and this is exactly how it went for me.
100%. But see, that's like so valuable, I think, for people to understand too, is like you had the missing piece to what he had, and he kind of had the missing piece to what you had, right? Like you had the time where he didn't have the time. He had the money, you didn't really have the money. And it's just combining those two things, right? And I think even in my partnership in D&D with my boy Steve, like we have similarly meshed in that sense too. He's more of the project management construction side, where I'm more of the acquisitions, acquiring the deal, managing, the asset within itself. And that's what makes it flow really, really well. And again, if you're listening to this and you're someone who isn't already in real estate, there's already two massive gems to take from this episode. Number one, go to a meetup. If you don't have a meetup around you, start a meetup. And number two, if you are looking to get in, a very, very valuable and easy way to do that is find somebody that you bring value to. Find that person that either doesn't have the time or doesn't have the resources. And if you have the ability to provide those resources, that's a great way to partner up. So that's awesome. So you got a lot of stuff going on. You're doing these rentals, you're doing these flips. I know that you transition, and I know this because I was a tenant at your office building. I know that eventually you transition to commercial, right? And I definitely want to talk about 210, that building. But one thing I will say is I a while back, quick story on myself. Christina used to live in South Jersey, right? And now the house that I live in is the house that she used to rent a room at. And there's a town in here. There's a town called Collingswood, and there's a block called Haddon Ave. And Justin is in the process of pretty much rebuilding Haddon Ave the way that he's buying up like acquisitions on there. But I had a very distinct vision of walking down Haddon Ave with Christina and saying that one day I want to walk down Haddon Ave and I want to just be able to look over her as my wife with our kids and say, what do you want to do tomorrow? That is like a vision of my life, right? To have that type of freedom to be able to do it. And even though I wasn't at this point yet where I was able to say that, Justin buys an office building on Haddon Ave and rents the space to me with the old job that I was working at. So I know you switched to commercial. Tell us about what that transition was like. What's different from that aspect versus, rentals and flips? And did you like it over there? Are you going to continue to buy over there? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I didn't like intentionally switch to commercial. I was kind of just stumped. Like I knew I've had Nav, but like I never really looked at properties over there. And I started looking at properties, and like I was really starting to get intrigued by like the downtown area
Yeah.
because it's very old. A lot of the buildings there are very old and like mom and pop owners still. So I saw like there was a lot of runway in terms of gentrification, and there's a lot of cool restaurants there. There's a ton of like like restaurants still being built. So there's a ton of money getting pumped into that little downtown area.
Yeah.
So I felt really good about like holding properties there long term. And it just so happened that this property came up. Timing wise, it kind of worked out. I just had sold a single family house and ended up doing a 1031 exchange um, into this commercial property. That was my first like full commercial property. I did have one down the street from there that was a mixed use, like small, like 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But this was my first like full commercial property, and it wasn't like intentional. It was just like something I happened to be interested in. Like it just came up. I was interested. It looked like it was a great deal. And I kind of just was like took the risk on it. I was like, I've never rented office building before. I was like, the thing needs a ton of work. Like it was completely neglected for 30 years. Like literally they hadn't done one thing except maybe like a part of the roof. So the entire interior needed to be remodeled. It was maybe 50% occupied. So, long story short, we renovated the entire thing. We got it fully occupied. We almost 3x like the income that it was producing.
Sick.
And so it's been a great deal from a real estate perspective. And ever since then, I kind of got interested more and more in buying on Hatton Ave. So, kind of just networking and putting it out there, like on Facebook, like, hey, looking to buy properties on Hatton Ave. That was how I bought the third one. Somebody reached out. They had a wholesale deal. That was the most recent one where I did the development project at the old VFW. So that was super
Yes.
fun. Just finished that one earlier this year. And
Yeah, it's where I go
it's
to
been
get my
awesome.
haircut now.
Yeah, yep. I heard you mention that in the last episode. I was like, man,
100%.
Rocco's the first sponsor here. You don't even know it.
That's great. Well, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, like I said, I mean, you're doing some insane things. 1 second, Justin. You hear me?
I got you.
All right, I'm gonna run that back. Cool. For some reason my Apple Music like popped up, so we'll just edit that. But I'll start up. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, you're doing some amazing things, and like I love seeing the commercial stuff because that's different for me, right? Like, and I feel like a lot of times we end up getting into as investors, like we get into one area and we like to stay there, right? Like for me personally, I love burring. That's like my main thing now. And then obviously I come from wholesale, so like I still have that as in my back pocket. But like to me, I'm like I don't know if I want to do a flip, right? Because I just like holding. But now you start talking about the returns that you're getting in commercial. We're going to now get into kind of some of your laundromat stuff too. And when you talk to me about this, I am highly intrigued. And I'm like, yo, I'm about to just put the rentals aside and get into laundry because it sounds insane. And you got a phenomenal slogan, make laundry great again, which is, you are pumping that out there. So you're in commercial, you're doing all that stuff. Tell me about the first time you came across a laundromat and what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that whole thing started. Cody Sanchez. I guess right after COVID, everyone was from like working from home or whatever, and she was like on this tear, and she started to become popular talking about boring businesses. And so like the first two that she always says is like laundromats and car washes. So I was like, oh, laundromats, cool. Like, never had thought anything of it. And so I went on like a little bit of a rabbit hole. It's like got the shiny object syndrome for laundromats. Went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Got in some Facebook groups. I kind of just put it out there, like, hey, I'm looking. I'm in South Jersey. I'm possibly looking to buy a laundromat. I'm in real estate, looking to diversify. Somebody on the forum had recommended me reach out to this local distributor.
Okay.
This was probably 2022. So I called the guy. We had like a 10-minute conversation. Kind of told him like what was what. He probably gets these calls all the time. People just kicking the tires that haven't had any experience in laundromats. So he probably thought nothing of it. And I just followed up with him every couple months. And one time I was listening to a podcast. I was driving home from work on a Friday. Or no, this was a Monday. I was driving home from work on a Monday, listening to a podcast, and something in my mind said, text this guy. So I was like, hey, Mike, haven't talked to you in a while. Just let me know if you have any local deals. He calls me. He says, hey, one just came up over the one. Yeah, one just came up over the weekend. This was a Monday. So something just had come up on Friday. He's like, I had this one 5 minutes from your house. Just came up for sale on Friday. We should go look at it ASAP because it's a good price. I think it's going to get snatched up. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll be there and let me know when you can meet. We'll go there. He said, just go there, walk it because it's a laundromat. It's open. You just go in whenever. I went and
No
walked
doubt.
it. A complete shithole, like just zombie mat
Yep.
style. Like lights were flickering. Looks like a horror scene in there. And surprisingly enough, there's people doing laundry, and that's kind of just how the laundry business is. There's a lot of complacent mom and pop owners who have owned the places for so long, and they're still making money because some people don't care. where they go to do the laundry. And so we ended up making a deal on that property. That was we closed on it in October 2023 and then reopened in February 2024. So we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary, and it's been super successful.
That's awesome. So when you walk in there, like you're seeing that it's a disaster in there and you're seeing people come in, like how do you say to yourself, like, I want to buy it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is like for me, it's like I look at a real estate deal, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. This house is run down. How much work does it need? What are the comps? What's the rental? What's the cash flow going to be? And that's how I'm analyzing a real estate deal, right? It's very predictable in that sense. You're like, all right, I'm in this laundromat. Like, it looks like a disaster, but like, I can't compare it like to another laundromat in value. But people are in here doing their laundry. Like, what's your brain processing as you're looking at a laundromat?
Well, the first time I went in there, I was like, I have no clue. But the
Yeah.
distributor that I was talking to that brought me this deal, he basically ran like a pro forma and sent me a like an estimate for equipment, basically to retool the store. So basically, demo the entire thing, make it brand new. If you do that,
Hmm.
there's going to be some runway, to ramp it up. But this is what the numbers should turn out at the end of the day. So I looked at it like, all right, this guy could be blowing smoke. Like maybe his numbers are crazy. They seemed a little high. Like we didn't
Yeah.
think that it would ever reach these numbers. So I was like, all right, if we do 75% of what this guy's saying, like it'll be good. It'll be successful. It'll still make more than a rental property would for
No
the
doubt.
amount of cash we're putting out. And so we took the risk on it. We just had sold a duplex like probably a month or two before. And so we had some capital put away for it. And the number, like we ended up using exactly what we netted on the duplex to spend on this
Yeah.
laundromat. And we went from like $800 a month cash flow at this duplex to $7,000 a month cash flow with this laundromat after it was stabilized. It's the stabilization period for a new store. This was basically a new store because it didn't have a customer base. Is like 12 months. We hit our projection, we hit our full projection in 6 months.
That's insane, dude. So you're getting $7,000 in cash flow from a laundromat, and you use the money from a duplex, which is getting you $800. So you now have $6,200 more a month from moving from a duplex to a laundromat.
Yeah, with almost this equal amount of work. Like the laundromat, like all of our machines are brand new, so we're not getting calls about machines breaking down. We have a card system in there, so we're not dealing with coins. And so we probably spend between me and Ashley, we probably spend 3 to 5 hours a week in total on that one store.
Dude, that's insane. That's like I equivalent it to like. Oh, actually, before I even get to that, will you ever go back to duplexes to small multifamily, or you're just solely going to be focused on laundry now?
We'll always buy real estate. I don't think I'll ever be interested in like small multifamily. I would say I would still buy like mixed use and multifamily and commercial in Haddon Ave. Like for anything real
Yes,
estate related, we're only going to buy on Haddon Ave in Westmont.
gotcha.
So, but I would prefer it to be commercial or mixed use or
Now
or like a development project.
I see, I see. So when you get the laundromats, you're not getting the real estate attached to it. You're getting the business itself.
In our situation, they're the ones that we have are in strip centers, so we don't own the real estate. But if you
Got
can
it.
get the real estate with the laundromat, you're kind of hitting all three. You're hitting it
100%.
high there.
Yeah. Because now you're getting the appreciation of the real estate plus you're getting the cash flow. But in your sense, you're getting the cash flow. The cash flow is so significant that you could use that cash flow to go and buy acquisitions on Haddon Ave, which is going to increase your generational wealth factor, while your cash flow is going to get you to your cash flow numbers within literally. I mean, if you have a duplex that's getting you $800 and a laundromat's getting you 7,000, I mean, you need two laundromats basically, and you're hitting any type of goal that you even have for anybody that's pretty much out there for the most part.
Yeah,
Whereas with the duplexes, you're going to need a handful more. So that's insane, dude. That's really awesome.
yeah. If you can try to compare it, like how many units would you need? How many
Yeah.
duplexes would you need? Compared to one laundromat, and if you have like 20 duplexes, just say like property management on that, you're going to spend more time on property management on 20 duplexes than you would on this little laundromat. So
Yeah.
it's been more successful than we could have ever hoped for. Kind of blown the doors off of what we expected, and it's been a fun ride.
So one thing that's really cool too, man, is you're buying them in like strip centers, right? So like because I was thinking like in the sense of like if you buy like a coffee shop, and I have some friends that like are involved in stuff like that, like they're looking for like where are the most cars driving by, right? But when you're buying in strip centers, it's actually a great opportunity for laundry. I feel like a lot of people are going in there, starting their laundry, maybe doing some stuff in those strip centers if you have like a grocery store or something like that, then coming back and grabbing their clothes. Is that kind of what you're seeing? Like, how are you like, this is a good location. I want to buy this laundromat.
Yeah, that's definitely important because you want people. It's a convenience factor, right? Like you said, people can start their laundry. They can go grab some groceries, grab a slice of pizza, grab a
Yeah.
coffee, and so they like to be able to stay close, like to the store. Especially with like these newer machines, the cycles are only like 30 minutes, so it's not like you go home for
Yeah.
an hour and come back. And the parking is important too. So obviously, some of these bigger strip centers have more parking. So you'd hate for someone to pull up and try to do their laundry and they have to fight for a parking spot or carry their clothes like 2-3 minute walk or whatever the case may be. So most of them are in strip centers. I mean, there are some standalone laundromats where the real estate is included. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So it's kind of, I think there's benefits to both.
Yeah. That's awesome. What are some things that you like learned as you were going about like your first acquisition, right? Because it's different. Like you got to go out and get like an equipment loan and stuff like that. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So from a physical perspective, some of the things we learned, we had to almost completely redo the wiring and water plumbing, supply lines and drains in the first store, which we didn't really anticipate. Obviously, the machines are much different. Like the machines were like 25, 30 years old. So the new machines are much different. The electrical capacity is different. The draining of the water capacity is different. A lot of the logistics from a mechanical standpoint are different. And that was probably our biggest learning experience on that first one was the unexpected expenses of some of the mechanical upgrades we needed.
Yeah.
We thought there would be a handful, but like we ended up having to almost rewire the whole thing. The only good thing was we were able to save like the main gas line was the right size. So like if you're buying an existing laundromat, that's one thing that the electrical you'll probably have to upgrade electrical and water and sewer like depending on how it's set up in the store. But the gas, like the newer machines are more efficient, and so they actually use less gas. So whatever gas setup is there is probably adequate, depending on how many like stems you have for for the dryers. So that was a learning experience. The funding was actually not too bad. We use this company called Eastern Funding.
Okay.
Their niche is laundromat lending, so they do like acquisitions, like retools, equipment purchases, and stuff like that. Um, they put it on an 8-year term because the life expectancy of the machines is shorter. It's not like a real estate property where it's like a 30-year term. It's like an 8-year amortization period. The interest was like 3 points above prime rate, or the 5-year treasury. I forget which one it was.
Yep.
But the rates are a little higher. There's a little more risk. Their collateral is the machines and then whatever cash you put down. But it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible at all. The lender was pretty easy, and like I said, they're specific to laundromats, so like they kind of knew the game already.
So like when you're getting approved, what are they looking at on your end for like an approval to approve you for a loan like that?
Yeah, so they look at your balance sheet. They kind of see like what your income is and like your profit and loss if you have a business or like W-2.
Hmm.
They make sure you have good credit, obviously. But they're more worried about your would say background as like an operator because like the laundromat being like a good operator is like arguably the most important thing. So
Yes.
they want to make sure you're not like a loser. Like, so if your credit's bad, they're probably going to be like, all right, like you're probably not going to, do that well with this laundromat, especially if it's your first one. If you have like a handful of laundromats and you go to them and you have a good track record, they're going to look at it like, all right, he's got 2 other stores, like whatever, like this, he's going to, execute this plan for this new laundromat. We trust it. So there's a trust factor involved. Also, the distributor recommends them all the time, so they vouched for me as well. They wanted to see my portfolio, my real estate portfolio, so like that
Yes.
made them comfortable because they saw like I had these properties I was managing. So I think a factor of all those things kind of helps out for the loan as well.
100%. Now, like if I'm brand new to laundry, which personally I am, right? So like I'm getting some information out of this in general. Like, what is your advice to someone who's hearing this, right? And maybe like the realities of the situation is like a lot of times people want to invest in real estate. They want it for the passivity of the cash flow, but it takes a decent amount of time to build a portfolio, right? To actually be able to replace your W-2 income with real estate. And we got to, just understand the realities of the situation in some cases. But then you hear a situation like this where you're like, yeah, I'm getting 7 G's in cash flow off one laundromat. Like, if I'm brand new, I'm not a real estate investor, so I don't have that background necessarily. But I hear this and I'm like, I want to go get laundromats. What's your advice to me?
Do it as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And if you're not like I said, if you're half decent, like you can be successful at it. The more attention to detail you have and the more you care about the store, the more successful it'll be. So we focus heavily on keeping the store clean, bright. We want it to feel safe in there. We try and, you know, try and get reviews out of every customer that we go in. Like if we ever go in the store and there's people in there, we talk to them. The culture's been good. We try and push for reviews because that helps like the algorithm on Google for people to find it. Um, I would my recommendation would be to get with someone who's done it. That can help guide you along the path, especially in the beginning. For us, that was the distributor. He was the one that was kind of helping us through it. There was some things that he left out. Um, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but like some of the mechanical things he didn't really mention to us, so we just
Yeah.
assumed like they were good. But I don't know if he left them out. Like I don't know if he. I feel like he didn't want to scare us away. Like, oh, you got to change all this stuff, so scare us away from buying it. I don't know if that was
Right,
the
right,
case
right.
or not, or if he just assumed that we knew some of these things. Uh, so yeah, I would say my advice would be, find like a mentor that has a store or two. Kind of piggyback off of them, but it's not that complicated if you can manage a rental property. It's really not that much different. What I
Yeah.
would say though is if you have older machines and you plan on keeping those, and they're all coin operated, it's going to be a lot different. So for us, like we retooled the entire store, so we're not dealing with the headache of coins getting stuck and machines not working. So, I mean, I did talk to Ashley about this too. Like looking back, I was like, if we had bought a store where the machines were like 10, 12 years old, which is like towards the end of the life expectancy, and we were getting calls all the time, having to go to the store and deal with people's machines not working, we probably wouldn't like it as much. But the fact that everything's brand new, we're not dealing with these like little BS issues, I think that goes a long way as well. So
Yeah. It's similar to like a rental property in general too, right? It's like if you buy a rental property and it's an older property and you're trying to just turnkey it and not necessarily do anything to it, then you might get calls from your tenant about like, hey, this something's up with the dishwasher or whatever the case might be, right? In that sense. Whereas like if you go in there and you do a full blown burr or whatever you're doing like a full renovation where you're gutting it and putting it all back together, you know that everything's new. So the odds of you getting those late night calls about things just minimize, right? Now with laundry, it seems like everything is totally automated, right? So like if you have an issue, is there like a hotline for people to call like in the store if something's like going wrong, if a machine's overflowing with water or something like that? I mean, I don't know the issues that you necessarily face in laundry per se, but that would be my assumption.
yeah, I should add that all of our stores are self-serve, so we don't have like a wash, dry, and fold service. So that's like a whole separate business within the laundromat game that we're not interested in doing, and I don't know much about that, so I can't speak on it.
Yeah.
We do have a phone number in the store. It's a Google Voice number. It says if you need assistance, we have a couple signs in the store above the kiosks. If you need assistance with anything, call or text, and we're pretty available all day. The store opens at 6 a.m. and during the week it closes at 10, and then on the weekends it closes at 11.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a lot of calls in the beginning about people trying to figure out how to operate the machines, like they were trying to use their debit card on the machines versus getting a laundry card from the kiosk. But once there's someone like after the store ramps up, there's always someone in there doing laundry. And so if somebody can't figure something out, they usually will just ask someone else in the store.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty successful on that side too. We haven't had a ton of like issues like from a management perspective.
Yeah. What about like cleaning? You're sending the
Yeah.
cleaner in there like every day. How's that work?
Yeah, we have a cleaner that goes twice a day. That's been a game changer as well. So me and
Mm.
Ashley there's two things that we were doing ourselves in the beginning. One was opening and closing the store. So we'd go there every night and every morning, open and close it, and then we would
Mm.
clean it as well. So we ended up getting magnetic lock systems on the doors on timers. So we eliminated having to go there at all to open and close it. And then we were cleaning it in the beginning, and then we hired a cleaner. Once the store got stabilized and started providing enough cash flow to cover a cleaner, we did it right away because like that was like we were going there twice a day to do it. We were spending an hour there each time, so we figured 2 hours per day, which still isn't terrible.
Yeah.
But we ended up we want to make this a passive business and scale through stores. And if you're trying to clean everyone yourself, it's obviously you're going to be treading water. So we hired a cleaner as soon as it made sense. They go twice a day. They go one time in the afternoon, usually between like 2 and 3, and then they'll either go back at night when it closes or first thing in the morning before it opens.
Got it.
So basically, a laundromat, you have like in our situation, it feels like there's like two shifts of customers, like people who go from like 7 a.m. to like noon, and then it's usually slower between like 2 and 5. And then
Okay.
you have a second shift from like call it six to close, where so it's like you want the store to be clean for like both sets of customers. So if you just let it go from the morning until night, it's always going to be dirty at night when those customers go, and that's going to give the store a bad rap. Whereas if you have it clean for both shifts, it's you're kind of having it clean for everyone that goes for the most part.
100%. So like you open up a new laundromat. What are you doing to differentiate yourself from everybody else that has a laundromat in the area? And then also, what are you doing to like incentivize people to come to yours?
So we have large capacity machines. So our biggest washer in Voorhees is 65 pounds. So it's like you could do 6 loads of laundry, and the
Okay.
cycle is only half hour. So you could do a hell of a lot of laundry in a half hour for the wash cycle. Depending on how thick your clothes are or whatever you're washing, you might have usually between like 20 and 25 minutes worth of dry time. So if you're hustling in there, you can be in and out with a lot of laundry in 1 hour, depending on how long it takes you to fold. So that's a differentiator for us. Like a lot of the stores do have some bigger machines, but um, ours are a quicker cycle. I feel like because they're newer, just more technologically advanced than some of these older ones. And I think
Yeah.
the cleanliness is definitely something that sets us apart. There's one other store around us that's relatively new and nice, and they do have big machines, but it's not as clean. And so if you look at our Google page, like almost all of our reviews mention something about the cleanliness.
Mm,
And then people feel safe in the store. So we have cameras, they're hanging from the ceiling. People can see the cameras, and it's bright all the time. So like, most people that do laundry, it's mostly women. And so they want to feel safe when they're in the store, and they do. So I would say the things that, the two main things that differentiate us are the cleanliness and the bright, safe feeling store.
dude, that's so
Um,
true.
and then the
That's
machines are
that's
the
so
machines
true.
are efficient. So it's like, the card system is nice. People don't have to worry about coins.
Yeah.
They can register their laundry card. So if they ever lose it, they don't lose their balance. We can, look it up in the system. They can get a new card and not lose their balance. And people love that as well. We run some promotions and stuff from time to time to keep customers happy with bonuses and stuff like that too. So I would say it's a combination of a couple different things. But like I said, it's really not hard. Like, if you're just on top of it and like you're a good operator, like you can be very successful fairly easily.
Yeah. And is there any way to like, there might not be, but is there any way to see, and I would think that it would come from your laundry cards. Is there any way to see like retention rate on the people that come in and if they
Yep.
consistently come?
Yeah, so we can look at so the software is sick. Like you can literally see everything in real time. Like these machines are running, the cycle is done on this machine's open. We can see our revenue in real time
Mm,
on this software, and then it also it shows you like you can look at it like per day or per week or per month, how many cards are new and how many cards are have been used. So like if you have 40 cards used for the day, and then it says 20 new cards dispensed, obviously 20 of them were returning customers. So it's something we track.
100%.
Right now, about 30% of our customers still are new, which is surprising to me. We
Mm,
have over 3,500 laundry cards out since we opened. Um, and so to still get a 30% new cut, like 30% of the people coming in still are new customers coming up on 1 year, I
okay.
think is like very indicative of there's still more runway to go. The growth is slower now, but I think there's still some growth in the revenue to happen.
Got it. And now is this in the first, are you still talking about that first laundromat? Because I know you just opened a second one.
I'm still talking about the first one.
Got it. So let's talk about the second one now. This just recently opened. How's that performing? And have you learned anything different? I believe this one's in a different area, correct?
Yes. The biggest thing for this one that we were not expecting was the fight with the township. It was an existing laundromat, but the township inspector over there, and I didn't know this going into it, it's in Pennsylvania, Sharon Hill, right north of the airport. The
Yep.
inspector is notorious for just being like a stickler and very detail oriented, like checks every little single thing. So we got freaking hammered with permits. Like it took us, not shitting you, it took us 5 months to get the permits back. Like we
Mm,
went back and forth so many times with this guy to get the permit approved. And we weren't waiting. We were like, all right, our permits are in, we'll start work. Like, so we got a lot of stuff done before the permit was approved. And then he came out and saw that we had all this stuff done, shut us down for a couple of days, and then We had to call this freaking politician that got us back on his good side. It was a fiasco. So that we didn't deal with in the first store. We kind of handed
Yep.
in our electrical and plumbing permits in the first store, and we were good. On the second store, this guy wanted architectural plans. Dude, so the washers sit on like a metal base. He asked us for the metallurgical content of the washer bases. And I was just like, dude, what are you even talking about?
Dude, come on,
I
man.
swear. So that was the biggest difference for the second store. That's why it took so long. So I think we signed our lease in like April for that one.
Yeah.
And like realistically, like if we didn't have any stops in that, we probably could have reopened in like October.
Yes.
We just opened on last Monday, so it's been
It's crazy.
it's been just over a week on that one. But that store is like double the size of the first store.
Mhm.
But yeah, the biggest thing was just unexpectedly the permit and the construction process, and it took
Yeah.
forever. But I mean, it was worth it. But that was
Uh,
definitely the biggest difference there.
I actually met that guy
No, you
because
didn't.
Geller brought me there when I was in the area. He had brought me over with my boy Steve, and he was like, "Yo, come take a look at the laundromat that we got going on." And I was like, "All right, sweet." So I went in there and looked at it, and you guys had an inspection going on there, and I'm pretty sure it was that guy because Geller was in the back end telling me some not so great things about this guy. So I got to figure it was probably him.
Yeah, he's brutal, dude. But once he started to see the finishes and stuff, like he was like, "Oh, these guys are like they're not like doing stuff half-assed." Like we really went
Yes.
all out. Literally, almost every single thing in the store was brand new from the mechanicals up. And so once he came in there towards the end and like saw that we were like spending like we spent 250 grand to redo the store before we even got
Wow.
equipment in there. And so like he realized, I think in the beginning he thought we were some like young kids trying to just get this laundromat like and
Yes.
wing it, right? Um, that was the vibe maybe that he got, and kind of maybe that's why he was being so hard on us. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
teach these kids a lesson, which whatever. Um, this guy's old and angry. It is what it is. But once he came in, his tone definitely changed towards the end. Once
Yeah.
he came in and saw how nice it was, he kind of was like, he still called us out on some stuff on the final inspection, but we got through it and he let us open. So that's just part of the
What
process, man. It's what you sign up for when you're doing these big projects. Just gotta have
100%.
you
What
gotta
do
have the grit to get through
you
it.
do?
That's
You
what it
do.
was.
What do you spend $250,000 on to redo the store before you even put equipment in?
Uh, two dual zone HVAC, brand new ducts for the vents, for the dryer vents,
Okay.
all new electrical, drain troughs, majority of the new plumbing. We had to reframe everything above the dryers and behind the washers, drop ceiling, lighting, cameras, flooring. We actually done like a stamped concrete floor that came out really nice. Window graphics, man. What else? It's pretty much everything and anything that you
Yeah,
could spend money
it's a
on in a
laundry
store.
list,
It's
no pun intended.
yeah,
Yeah. So like,
that included like acquisition costs and some of the
got it.
like permit fees were 8 grand, which is bananas. Things like
Yeah.
that too. Like it added up quick. I think our budget was like 150. I might be exaggerating on the 250. I want to say it was like 212 or 215
Yeah.
when it was all said and done.
And now that's all built into a loan?
No, that was cash. So we raised some money
Mm,
from some investors, some that were friends of ours. That's why we called it My Friend's Laundromat.
that's sick, dude. I love that. I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's really great.
Yeah. So we brought on three capital partners. They each brought 50,000 to the table. They're equity partners. And then the rest, me and Geller came up with out of pocket.
Yeah.
Um, and then the balance of the machines, part of that cost was like a down payment on the machines, which was like 20 some thousand,
Okay.
24,000, I think. And then the rest of the machine cost was financed, which was
Gotcha.
another 500K. The machine and equipment loan there was like it was like 500K, I think, and we put down 20, which it's like almost zero.
Yeah. So you're carrying 480 over the course of 8 years
Yep.
with an interest of what, like 9%,
We got nine and
10%?
a quarter on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is pretty good. On Voorhees, it was 10 and a quarter. So we're a point lower. Interest rates came down a little bit since we bought that
No
second
doubt.
one.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it's very intriguing. I'll try to have you on for a full-blown like laundry get down, but I want to talk to you about a couple other things. So you have your inspection company, right? That this is your day-to-day kind of job at the moment of what you're doing. It's your company. When did you start this, and kind of like what does that look like for you right now?
Yeah. So I got hired with that this company straight out of college. Kind of just fell into it. I hated it at first, actually, doing the home inspections. I was like, man, I went to school for engineering. I wanted to be in like civil engineering, which is what my discipline was. And I got hired with this company doing home inspections and like residential structural engineering. And I was like, I hated it for like probably a year. Eventually, I got like, I did so many home inspections, you kind of just get used to it. Long story short, I ended up getting my home inspection license. So I started there in 2012. 2018, the owner was like thinking about retiring. So we had negotiated for me to buy the company at the end of 2018. The deal ended up falling apart. And so I was very transparent with them. I was like, I had all these ideas. I was like, I'm going to buy the company and change all these things. They were doing everything with like paper and stuff. I was like, this is crazy. And so I had all these ideas. And when the deal fell apart, I told them straight up, I was like, listen, like I'm leaving like in a month. I'm going to start my own company doing the same thing. I appreciate everything you've done. He's a really good guy. Like we're still friends to this day.
Yes.
That was 2019. I started my inspection business. Fast forward to 2021. It's crazy. I was listening to a podcast about business buying. It might have been Cody Sanchez. It definitely was. Now I'm thinking about it.
In
And
2021.
yeah, in 2021, probably
No
right
doubt.
around the same time I heard about the laundromats. And I stayed in contact with the owner of that company. It wasn't like bad blood, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I listened to a pod. I was like, F it, I'm going to reach out to this guy, see if he wants to sell. Because like he was talking about selling to me a couple years ago. Maybe he'd still be open to it. I text him, hey, are you looking to sell the inspection business? Like, maybe we can work something out. He said, yes. I said, oh, okay. So fast forward to 2022, I closed on that business. It was a very easy merge because, I worked there for so long. It's my company that I started was doing the exact same thing. So
Yes.
merged the two. Business was crazy. This was 2022. So we were still in like the market was ripping and tearing. The interest rates were low for COVID. So like the business was crazy. It's slowed down a lot since. Um, but that's kind of how all that transpired and, still running that day to day now. I
Nice.
have two guys that work for me that do home inspections. And I have an admin. She kind of runs the show, to be honest. Without her I'd be, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
And I focus on the engineering side. I do all the structural, site visits, drawings, reports, verbal consultations, you name it, on the structural end.
Yeah. So like first off, that's dope. You come from the inspection background. You were doing the inspections. You now have an admin, you have two other people that work with you. Just and entrepreneurship as a whole, obviously, is something that you were born and bred. You have the spirit. At what point in the inspection company were you like, I'm gonna take myself out of it and have people that are running it? Because I think that's like one of the hardest things just for entrepreneurs as a whole, right? Like I even think about it in my portfolio. I know that there's certain tasks that I could delegate and there's certain tasks that I cannot delegate. How do you get to that point where you're just like, and at what point did you get there where you're like, I know that I could bring other people on and I could be a little bit more of a leader in this aspect of just kind of, pulling the strings and stuff like that?
Yeah. So when I merged those two companies, I had one of my friends who had an engineering license. And when I bought that other company, I had enough engineering business to hire him. And my plan was for him to take all the engineering business off my plate and then give all the home inspections to these other two guys. And so that was how I planned on backing myself out of the business completely.
No doubt.
It didn't end up working out with that other engineering, the friend of mine. Again, it wasn't bad blood. It's just he wasn't really into it, and he was uncomfortable with a lot of things of the
Yep.
business. And so he left, and that kind of threw a wrench into like my grand plan for that business. And so since he left, that was the end of 2023. And so since he left, all the engineering stuff's been on my plate, and so I'm very much still working in the business
Yes.
on that side. And right now, kind of contemplating a couple different options for it. And so we'll kind of see where that takes us.
Well, if you keep buying laundry, you won't have to spend so much time on the on the tenant side of things like you would usually do in rentals. So keep buying laundry, you open up your more time for your engineering stuff that you unfortunately have to do at this moment. But that's awesome, man. I mean, listen, to go from it just seems like it's funny how it starts this way. Like you were in 2012, you and your boy were selling t-shirts. Now you're here in 2024 and you're getting paid for people cleaning t-shirts. And it's just a phenomenal full circle thing. And I even think back, like my first business in entrepreneurship was I was selling cannolis. D'Astoli's cannolis was the thing, right? And now it's like I'm in real estate. It's just funny how there's all these little stepping stones that you kind of go through, and it's just clearly seen on your end from how you go from one thing to the next. And I think it's just a great roadmap for all entrepreneurs to follow. It's like, even in this case, you have a grand plan for your business, and then things happen and things fall out, but you don't stop. You just keep going and you pivot and you continue to push forward. And like you mentioned, the grit, like that's really what you got to have if you're going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think for both of us, it's in our blood. It's a gift and a curse sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, what do we? I'll just go get a job working for someone else and be done at 9 o'clock. But it's not something I could ever do.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the same for you. And I think all entrepreneurs, they just have this desire to kind of build and grow. And I think it's a really powerful thing. And I think that's what creates like all the big like world the businesses that change the world, like Amazon, like Facebook, all these things. It's like builders, right? And like that's
Yeah.
what drives the world and the economy. And like if you have that in your blood, it's you can't ignore it. If you are, you shouldn't. You should definitely, dive into it. But I will say it's challenging. You have to have grit. If you're on the fence about it, it's one of them things. I could never probably work for someone else anymore
Yeah.
now that I'm this far into my journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But it does absolutely test your mental grit sometimes. It's like it's tough. It can be tough, but you just got to push through it, man. And that's where you have your breakthroughs, is when you have your toughest moments. It feels like that's when, like I remember specifically, I had a note like in my iPhone notes. I was having so many like thoughts about before we closed on the laundromat, the first laundromat. I was like, I forget exactly. I could pull it up maybe, but it said
Yeah.
like, this is the biggest financial risk that I'm taking in my life, and like like scared and all this stuff. But look how it turned out, and it's like now it's a life changing thing where like I could probably sell my engineering and inspection business and just focus on laundromats and make way more for way less of my time. And
Yeah.
I think I have a high like risk tolerance in business and
Yes.
financially, where that's not like, it's very stressful for some people. It was very stressful for me, but like I had a vision, and I feel like if I executed it properly, it was, the chances were that I was going to make it work, and it did.
100%. I think it's all boils down to like the fact that life rewards people that make uncomfortable decisions, right? And like you've been doing that since 2012, like when you started your own companies, right? And like bring it back to the t-shirt company that failed. Like it failed, but you learned from it, and it was uncomfortable at times, and you grew through that uncomfort. And now you put yourself in situations that you're in now, and it's like, yeah, I deal with this all the time. Like it's natural. But for a lot of people, it's not natural, and they need to build up to that. But exactly what Justin said, like if you're in that position where you're like kind of like on the fence, and you feel the spirit is dwelling inside you, right? You're like, I gotta start doing this. Like you just like exactly what you said, you take action, right? And again, I have like that whole 4 point plan that I've talked about before, right? It's the vision, it's the transition, it's the action, and then it's the faith, right? You got to have those four things. And exactly what you did, you had the vision for the laundromat, you had the transition, you knew how you were going to go about it, you didn't know everything, but you took action on it, and the faith has absolutely paid off, and now you have a whole new trajectory for where you see your kind of life going, which is awesome.
Yeah, and to bring it full circle, I think getting around people who are doing things like this, like coming to like you talking about, the South Jersey Real Estate Investor Group, like coming to these meetups and getting around people who are doing it is going to inspire you more to
Yes.
take that next step. Like so many people have come to the meetup group who are looking for their first deal, or like, oh, we're thinking about getting into real estate. We read all these books, and like we just haven't taken that next step. And I think being around like networking groups that when you can put yourself in position to be around these people is like very important as well. Just to kind of bring that back to the meetup group, it all kind of ties in beautifully.
100%. We're going to talk about one other partnership. This will be the last thing that we kind of highlight on here. So you and Ashley have been together for a while. You guys are about to get married. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What is that? What does that partnership look like, working with your spouse, or your soon to be spouse in that sense? And like, how does that dynamic work? Feel free to keep anything on record. You want to tell me anything off record, we can tell that. But I mean, I met Ashley a handful of times. She's awesome, and she's extremely put together on a lot of things in regards to business. So that's extremely helpful. But what does that look like in regards to your two relationship?
Yeah, it's funny. So when I first met her, she's from Jersey, but she was living in Miami at the time, and I flew down to Miami to meet her at the time, and I had just started my inspection business. And so I show up to her, I show up there and like I have two phones, I have my laptop, and she's like, "What the hell is this kid doing? Like, what is he into?" Like she kind of had like a feeling, but she didn't really know. Like I had this businesses. I had at the
Yes.
time, I think I was doing Toro rental cars. So I had like rentals, rental cars, and my inspection business was like bumping when I first started. I mean, it was busy. I was a busy guy, and she was just like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And that was 2019.
Okay.
And so now that she's known me for 5 years, she's kind of gotten very involved in everything. Um, but like I said, it's definitely challenging at times because like it's hard to separate, like if your business partner, if you're going home to your business partner every day, it's not like you leave work, you go home and tell your wife like, "Oh, this is what happened at work today." It's like you're
Yes.
going home, and any problems that you dealt with on one of the businesses that you're in with your partner, it's like it drags into like home life, or it can drag into your home life. So it's been challenging. I would say the benefits are more than, the benefits outweigh the challenges, but
Yes.
it's definitely stressful at times to work together. But I wouldn't have it any other way. She completely manages all the rentals, and for the most part, all the day to day operations with the laundromat. Um, Definitely, I would definitely warn people, if you're going to go into business with your spouse, like it could have easily went the other way, and it could definitely drive people apart, especially when money gets involved. But we're both
Yes.
kind of on the same page with everything, and there's obviously arguments, but we do our best to try and keep things separate, and not let things linger between one and the other, between business and life. So, but that's a whole nother challenge. But it's been good. I mean, I can't complain at
100%.
all.
What did she want to get involved, or was it more so like, yo, I got all this stuff going on, I could use your help? What was it more like?
It was more like COVID happened, and the restaurant, she was working at a fine dining restaurant in the
Mm,
city in Philly, and it closed. And then we got pregnant during all this happened during COVID. So it was more
got it.
like she wasn't able to work because the restaurant closed, and then she saw that all the stuff I was doing with real estate. I was doing a couple flips at the time and buying rentals, and she was like, "Oh, I could get my real estate license, and I could make a commission on all these properties, and then I could manage the properties." And she was familiar enough by then to like really kind of have a half decent grasp on the
Yes.
portfolio and kind of how things worked, and then just kind of progress from there.
What I will
And
say on that point, oh, go ahead. You can finish.
no, no, go ahead.
I think ultimately that was an absolute blessing in disguise because number one, A, it's helped you out in significant ways and it's helped you guys grow together in regards to your business. But number two, as I talk about on the show a lot of times, I think the family dynamic of having the mom being around the children, especially at young ages, and being there for them as it goes on, as they grow, is super, super important. And I see it. I mean, me and you and Ashley, we're all friends on Instagram and stuff like that. Like, she's with Hawk all the time, right? And like, that is so valuable for your kid. And on top of that, like, she now has an insight to what you go through on a day to day basis. She's helping in regards to that. You guys are truly building out that whole entire business. You're building out that foundation together, which I think is great, man. So regardless of the business aspect of it, I think for the fact that she's around, she has the flexibility to be around her kid, to be around, your guys' kid in that sense. Like, it's extremely valuable on a personal level, and it's obviously paid off on a business level for you also.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hawkins didn't start like full time school, I don't think, until like January of 2024. So he would have been 3 years and a couple months old. And so like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like having that flexibility to like watch him during the day. I think he started half days when he was like 2.5 or something.
Yeah.
So like for her to have the flexibility, and for me to have the flexibility to go pick him up at 12 and spend the rest of the day with him,
Yes.
was very important. And like if we didn't have our own businesses, like that's just wouldn't be possible. Most people just, they don't get done. They have to go to be somewhere for until 4 or 5, 6 o'clock at night, and you kind of miss all that time with them. So we're very grateful for that. Like we feel like we haven't missed a thing with him. Like we don't regret anything that we've done, even though it was very challenging in the first couple years. To not have like a full time like daycare or school or whatever. We wouldn't change it for the world, because like I said, we've had so much time with him. Even now, like we wake up, we spend every single morning with him until he goes to school. We're not like rushing to get to work by 7 and missing like the mornings. Like we start work
Yeah.
after he goes to school. So it's the benefits absolutely outweigh the the hardship of business ownership.
It's so beautiful, dude. It really is. Like, and this is why I don't want to like force entrepreneurship down people's throat that aren't like, trying to get into it. But if you're listening to the show, you probably for the most part are. Like, having that flexibility is more valuable than any of the amount of money that comes with it too. Obviously, you're going to put up with the stresses that come with it. There's pros and cons to it, but to be able to be with your kid in the morning, to be able to leave work at any time that you really want to. You have responsibilities, but to be able to leave, go, take your kids, take your spouse, whatever out. Like, that has absolutely been the greatest fruit of entrepreneurship. And I think that's what we need to start pushing and start really emphasizing with people is like, you don't work. It was a saying, you don't work to live. You don't live to work. Right. It's not that I'm like a living person to go out and work. Like, I have a family. I got to understand what actually matters in life. And being an entrepreneur gives you the opportunity to actually live in those moments and not feel like they're passing you by.
Yeah, what I will add to that is it can very easily consume you. Like, so when I first started
Hmm.
my inspection business, like Ashley was living in Miami and I was home. I didn't have a kid, I just had a dog. So like literally I didn't have any like obligations other than, I could literally work all day and all night if I wanted to. And I did a lot of times. Like I would work, all day. I would go to the gym for an hour, eat dinner, take a shower, and now I would work again. And like you could if you don't have any off switch, like
Yeah,
you could literally like drive yourself nuts. So it's like you have to really control you have to have a little bit of control over like you can't let the business control you because if you let it get out of hand and like it absolutely could take over and that could go the other way for you.
100%, bro. Final thoughts on your end.
Buy laundromats. Frankie, you got to try and find a laundromat.
I know. I gotta get in. Honestly, you got me. You hooked me.
Yeah, dude, it's just it's interesting, man. I never would have expected like our business like I thought we would just buy properties forever and and just build a portfolio until the cash flow was enough and then kind of stumbled upon laundromats. That's the beauty of the internet, right? Like it opens your eyes to like other business opportunities. Like when me and my friend, my college roommate first started that t-shirt company in 2012, like the reason we got the idea was I was on Instagram and this was before Instagram was anything close to what it is now.
Hmm.
I somehow stumbled upon like a local t-shirt company that was selling t-shirts and I was like, wait, I was like, what you can do this? Like you can start your own business and like I had no idea. Like you just how we grow up, it's like you go to high school, you go to college, and you go to college
Yes,
for a specific thing, you get a job for this, and like with the internet now, like you have so many avenues to learn from, and like it just the simplest thing will open your eyes to like who knows what. And so that's kind of what happened with the laundromats and from the t-shirt company in the very beginning, it was the same thing.
no doubt.
Um, and it's just yeah, it's crazy.
Well, Justin, absolute pleasure. Where can people find you?
Instagram is the best. Justin underscore Eaton. Come out to the meetup groups at SJREIG.
Yes,
We get new people all the time, and I'm looking to really grow that network. So come out if you can, if you're in the local area. If not, follow us on Instagram, and that's about it.
100%. I should have worn my shirt. We should have worn matching shirts for this, the SGRIJ. Well, dude, absolute pleasure. I definitely will be having you on. And congratulations on being the first interview for the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I couldn't think of anybody better to have on, being that you've had such an instrumental role in my growth as well. And I always appreciate your support. So everybody follow my man, Justin. He's giving out sick laundromat tips. He's also still in the commercial and the flip game. So he's throwing out some great content as well. Just a great guy to follow in general. But as I always say, pray the rosary, buy real estate. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.